Howdy y'all, my name is Scott. I'm the author of Rivet Stone, and it may be just some author, but let me tell you, using poetry and like poetic language is definitely something that is often said to like let's not do that. Let's not do that. But it definitely has its place with almost every sort of work, like with any sort of book. It's very easy to stumble into your descriptions and your general characters to write similar to how you write. So if you come from a sort of poetry, like a poetry background, if you're just generally like a poetic person or a lot of vocabulary or something like that. I mean, if you're just like some lit major or something, I don't really know. It's easy for you to kind of have that spill over in the totality of your work, and writing like a 400-page book that's just feels super flowery and poetic can definitely come off as a slog. So keeping that in check is super important, but there's a few instances where I think you can have the leeway of leaning into that a lot more. I think one example that's really common is definitely a character who's more educated. If the person like in the book is like more of a muse, if they're more of an actual like poet, a philosopher, then it makes a lot of sense for them to speak in that sort of way. If they are well educated and they like to talk and pontificate about things, and that's very common for a philosopher, for a professor even. I think that is a great example of when to lean into it. And if anything, we've talked about making sure that you have different voices and different dialogues with your characters. That's a great tool in order to really differentiate themselves amongst the masses. I think another great example may be somewhat surprising, but it's actually at the end of a book. You see this a lot of times in like movies, for example, and sometimes it can come off as a little cheesy, but usually at the very end, especially if there's going to be like if it's the first book in a series or a second movie in a series or whatever have you, the characters will sort of, state what's going to happen, maybe kind of talk about things that happen, maybe set up the plot or challenges that may present themselves in the next book or movie. And it's very easy for them to sort of say it a little more poetically. I think the Dark Knight is a very common reference where, like, would a hardened police officer really be saying things like he's not the one that we need but the one we deserve, like these sorts of like sort of, they really flash in their pride. Is this Brooklyn guy really going to be easy to be like, nah man, I mean, it is what it is. And people don't typically talk in that sort of way, but these sort of opportunities, and I would look into other mediums, like I said, movies and other books, and you'll find this is a common trend whenever they are trying to sort of either conclude the sort of thoughts of the characters, if they're trying to almost recap what happened in the story, and again, setting up potential problems, they're kind of getting you hooked for the next one. These are great tools and are a great time to really kind of lean into it. But you do want to make sure that whichever character is saying these particular things is that it's still appropriate for them. So it's not you being poetic, but your main protagonist, they see the finality that's going on here in the sort of universe, and they're taking upon themselves to feel a little more thoughtful about it. You still want to make sure that, and this is, of course, is just a great tip in general, but no matter how you're sort of stretching it and doing this sort of changing of the dialogue, you still want to make sure it's grounded and rooted in what the character would actually say. But again, hopefully that helps. Give me a like, give me a sub, and let's get published.